Hey, to my folk on YouTube. I appreciate y'all tuning into the live. And to the people that are on Instagram, if you guys can make your way on over to YouTube, because that's where I'm going to be talking, because a lot has been going on. And yeah, I just want to talk about some things because, like I said, it's been a lot going on. So, what I want to talk about, I'm just going to get right into it, is everything that has been happening with the Supreme Court and women's rights and women's liberation. You know, it's been it's been crazy, and there's a lot of different perspectives being held. And my endeavor isn't really to talk about the perspective. The people that's on YouTube, you guys can see the title of the live. Well, the thumbnail says "Women's Liberation is a hoax" or "Women's Empowerment is a hoax," and then the actual title is "We've been duped," because we have. And I'm going to explain exactly how we've been duped, so the people that are on, you know, Instagram, pop on over to YouTube because I'm about to pop off the live now. But yes, we've definitely been duped. Okay. So people on Instagram, bye. See you on YouTube. So to my YouTube folks, I needed my phone because I have a lot of sources, because I feel like there's some things that we really gotta kind of discuss as a people. Let me put my phone on do not disturb for a second. So look, we know what happened, right? And I see the thumbs up emoji. I appreciate everybody tapping into the live already. We know that Roe v. Wade was overturned this week, and as a result, now the states are able to decide whether or not they're going to permit and allow, abortion within their particular state. Now, I'm not here to condemn or say whether or not it's right is wrong, but I just want to set the record straight on why I think the reasoning for this is. Because of course, I mean, I understand the perspective on both ends, so I'm not even going to pretend like I don't, because I do. I understand both sides of it, and I feel like both sides has very valid points, and I've always been the type of person who felt like um that's just not something that I can dictate for the next woman. But regardless, I want to get into what I feel like is more important, is the reason and why all of this is happening, and how we as women have to wake up, because it's kind of like all in our hands right now, the way society is going, right? So, title of this live is "Women's Empowerment is a Hoax." And the reason why I say this is this. The reason why I say women's empowerment is a hoax is because everything that has happened with women, historically, anything that's looked like empowerment has been on the benefit of what is financially lucrative. So the reason why I feel like we've been duped as women, we've been duped into believing that we have some sort of empowerment, that all of this has been on our own strength, that we have risen up against the man and have become empowered. We've been duped because the power that we have been given was the result of it being financially like it being lucrative and profitable to do so. Okay. Now I'm gonna go through my sources because I have a few right here, right? And for you guys that want the links, I'm gonna post them all in the description box, because I feel like this is really important for us as women to know, especially Black women, because this is why I don't call myself a feminist. I don't call myself a feminist for many reasons, but the main reason is that it really don't have nothing to do with us per se, and it was all manufactured in order to make women become exactly what we are now. Okay. So this is the first thing I'm gonna get into, is basically the evolution of women's empowerment and how it shifted from being women being housewives and being comfortable with being housewives to women being in the workforce, right? Now, this initially the shift started to change in like the 60s and 70s of women going into the workplace, right? Now, when women started going into the workplace and started working, companies and businesses realize that women, they're missing out on a whole demographic of people. Like, as a business owner, anybody that knows anything about business, you know that you want to make sure that you are hitting your target demographic, right? Now, all these businesses, they were initially marketing to men because men were the ones who had the money, and the wives would have to go and ask their husbands for money to buy whatever they needed to purchase, right? Because women are now going into the workforce, we see advertising shift totally and completely to women. And I'm going to just read this little paragraph here. from this website. Now, like I said, I'm gonna link all of my sources below in the description box. But this actually says that women are more receptible or more receptive, excuse me, to advertising. So I'm going to put that down there. And that 70 to 80% of the buying that happened is by women or influenced by women. Now, this is a very, 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 very important point because a lot of times we as women, especially Black women, we feel like our womanhood is something that like we were able to fight and get advantages because of the fact that we stick together as women and we got things done. I just want to make it very clear that the advantages that we got in this country only became concrete because they were profitable. That's the reason why anything happens in this country. The reason why anything happens in this country is either because it affirms a certain level of white supremacy or it is lucrative. That is the only way that certain things and certain rights and liberties are granted, especially if that so-called marginalized group is funded by the like. It's so crazy because when the whole women's liberation and women's empowerment movement started to happen, there was some pushback from the regular, like, the average Joe, if you will. But major corporations and all of that immediately got behind advertising. So let's go to the first link, you feel me, that I have. It says from housewife to superwoman. It says the evolution of advertising to women. Now, in the 1960s, these ads popped up and everything, it started showing women being these strong, powerful women in the workforce. We were beautiful, we was handling everything, and we were getting it done. And we didn't need men to come in and do what they were normally doing. This is where like a lot of that started. And it really took off in like the 80s and the 90s. That's when it really became a serious thing of this woman is doing it all by herself. Now, we as women, we like to hear that. It strokes our ego for us to have this idea that we're strong and we're independent and we get it done and all of that. But that's too much pressure on us, first of all. And second of all, it's not true. And the only reason why those type of narratives were circulated is because it was lucrative to do so, because of the fact that women have such a huge buying power now. And the entities that know that about us are using our womanhood against us. You guys understand what I'm saying? Because I feel like I might seem like I'm all over the place with this, but I hope you guys get me. Please let me know if you guys get what I'm saying. Because the point I'm making, I'm gonna let me continue going on. So this is the first thing. We have ads and everything targeting women. Um, we have ads targeting women and making women out to be, the sexual objects, the sexualization. And that's where we see it. It's starting in the 60s, in the 70s, and it progresses on into the 80s and 90s because these advertisers know that they can market to women. So the point I'm making is that this push for women's liberation and women's empowerment was not a genuine or authentic one. It was one rooted in the fact that advertising to women is a very, very, very lucrative industry. That's what it was rooted in, And I know you guys are wondering, what does all this have to do with the decision that just happened this week and all of that? I'm going to tie all of it in if you just, stick with me on this subject matter. So the next thing I want to talk about real quick is because we have all of this, you go girl, one I'm woman, hear me roar, and all that is happening, right? Our society starts to shift. And because our society starts to shift, the responsibilities that women originally had, that these things that people like to consider gender roles, those things started to like fall by the wayside. We have more women that are in the workforce. Now the majority of women are working, and because of that, in all these countries where there was this push for women to be out in the workplace and marketing and advertising to women and using women's own womanhood to get us to spend money and buy, because that's what they did. Like, I mean, there's plenty of articles, like I said, and I'm going to link it below. That's what they did. They used women's empowerment and women's liberation to make us the largest consumers in the world than we are. Women, like I said from the article, we account for 70 to 80% of buying, and then we influence men what to buy as well. So they were successful in weaponizing our womanhood and using it to use us to be their consumers, right? So now that we've gotten to this point that that's where we are, all the societies that are so-called civilized, you know, they like to throw that word around. All the countries that are so-called civilized and all of that are now having more and more women who are not having children because we're so much in the workforce. We're so much into what this society made us to be. Like I said before, anything that this society has done to so-called benefit women was done at the benefit of the dollar or upholding some level of white supremacy. I need you guys to really understand that, because when we say things like they're taking our rights as women, understand that the rights that we fought for was never really granted to us because we fought for them anyway. It was always a hoax to give women the idea of power, to give us the idea that this is what we want. You know, instead of us sitting comfortably, like let's just think about it. Because the way things were before this, like in the 60s and before, even in black households, because I did a live about this a little while ago. In black households, the marriage rates in the 60s, black people were married at a higher rate than white people were in the United States. Did you guys know that? In the United States, the marriage rates for black people were high, even more so higher than white people in the 50s and the 60s, you know? So we have that lifestyle where the man is actually working. He's going to work and he's providing for his family and he's coming home, and the woman is at home taking care of the children, taking care of the household. That lifestyle was demonized. It was demonized for this new modern lifestyle. We were duped into believing that this is what was empowering. Us doing what the men do is what makes us better women. Isn't that ironic? I'm not saying that women can't work. I'm not saying that women can't be workers or anything like that. I'm not saying that women can't be workers, because I work. I have businesses and all of that. But the point I'm making is this. Someone said in the comments, we had no choice. We did have a choice in the 50s and 60s. There was a lot of factory jobs. Of course, deindustrialization came in and messed all of that up. And of course, I went into detail about that in another live, and I'll link that below too. But the point I'm making is, we as women, we had a life that was easier for us. And modern women now, according to surveys, women are more depressed. We're more depressed. We're the least married than we ever been in history. You feel me? And if you say, well, marriage doesn't matter, I don't want a man anyway. Okay, fine. But women as a whole are more depressed than we've ever been. So what I'm saying is that the idea that we fought for these things because this is what we wanted and this was better for women was something we were tricked into believing. It's like, what do they call that? Reverse psychology, basically, where they say, this is what's good for you. This is what women want. This is what the working woman is. She's beautiful. She's smart. She's not just a housewife. She's not just a mother. She's not just these things, as if these things are somehow demeaning. She's not just these things, but she's a working woman. She's this, she's that. And there's nothing, like I said, there's nothing wrong with being a working woman. But we're clearly not as happy as we used to be. Women as a whole. We're not as married as we used to be. Life is harder for people as a whole because, I mean, it's easier to live when you have two people coming together to support a household than it is when you have one. So that's what I mean when I say that we've been duped. We've been duped, and that women's empowerment this whole time has been a hoax. Now we have gotten certain rights and liberties, and I'm not negating that, but I'm saying that the root of it, the reason for doing it, was to make us consumers and to squeeze money out of us, because that's what everything is always about, right? So going forward, we now live in the society that we have now, where the working woman and all of that is too concerned with work and getting things done than to be having children. So most of the countries that have followed this model, i.e., in essence, America, most European countries, and Japan and China and some other Asian countries, right? Those countries who have that kind of model, those have the lowest fertility rates. And it's not just because people are working. The actual biological state is also declining. Like men produce a lot less sperm than their forefathers, and women are having a lot more fertility issues than our mothers and our grandmothers did. Now I'm going to read you guys another link. This one is from bbc.com, and it says here, this is the title of it. Let me see if you guys can see that. I hate when the camera doesn't focus. Anyway, it says fertility rate, jaw dropping, global crash in children being born. Now I'm going to wrap this all up into what this has to do with Roe v. Wade, right? Fertility rate, jaw-dropping, global crash. Now, before I get into this, I see a lot of people saying that stress is what's causing, the fertility rates to decline. Let's also take into account, because this could be a whole nother live by itself, that the majority of the food that we eat isn't real. A lot of us are not on a whole foods type of diet. A lot of us are eating packaged and processed foods. A lot of us are eating foods that have been sprayed with all sorts of chemicals and pesticides. A lot of us are not exercising as much. We don't move. We live a more sedentary lifestyle. So it's not just stress. It's not just stress, because our forefathers in the 50s, and can you imagine being a Black person in the 50s and the 60s? I think they were stressed out too, but they were still able to have children, right? I mean, folks was getting lynched. Not to say that we don't have our issues today, that police brutality isn't a thing, but racism was just way more prominent and just in your face than it is now. But they were still having children. They were stressed out too. But the diet was different, a lot different. Okay. But that's a whole nother live. I'm not about to get in that right now. What I do want to focus on is the fertility rate, because I feel like this is what it all boils down to. Our society has used women's empowerment as a way to, bolster our economy, right? Because women are like these main consumers, but now society has dug itself in a hole that it can't get itself out of, because there's a cause and effect when it comes to doing that. You feel me? When it comes to using and manipulating women and using our womanhood against us. Okay. So it says fertility rate, jaw dropping, global crash in children being born. It says the world is ill prepared for the global crash in children being born, which is said to have a jaw dropping impact on societies. You hear that? The world is ill prepared for the global crash. It says that 23 nations, including Spain and Japan, are expected to see their populations halve by 2100. So they're going to have half of what their population is today by the year 2100. And then it says they have a few different countries here. It says let me see. Trying to find where it says about the US. Skimming through this article earlier. It has the United States here. So it has the population of what it is now, and then what the projected population is. And in China, India, the USA, and Japan, all of those populations are very low. And the United States is almost, if you Google it right now, what's the replacement rate for the United States of America? It will tell you that the replacement rate is 2.1, right? Which is just enough to keep the population the same. But if it starts to dip below 2.1, we're going to see a decline in people. And that's why this whole decision has happened. It's not, doesn't have anything to do with women's rights and women's liberation and women's empowerment. Because, like I explained before, everything that this country has done to so-called benefit women has been to inflate the economy and use women as consumers. You understand? So it has nothing to do with anything like that. But it has everything to do with keeping enough people in the population so that we don't see a global crash. You understand me? There's going to be more countries, there's going to be more places that enact strict laws against this type of thing because there is a global shaking happening in regards to like these fertility rates and everything declining. Okay. Now, it says which countries will be the most affected. They have certain countries here that they think are going to be the most affected. Japan has been in a decline since the 1980s, apparently. And, the United States laughed at them because they didn't realize what was going on. But Japan has been ahead of us for a minute, and so is China. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Now, let me show you guys something I thought was that I thought was very interesting. Throughout this whole article, it talks about, oh, well, how can we fight falling birth rates and da 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 da, and there's all these things going on. And then when you get to the bottom of the article, it says, what about Africa? Okay, it says, what about Africa? I'm going to just read you guys what this says. It says the population of sub-Saharan Africa is expected to triple. It says treble, but that means triple. It's expected to triple in size to more than 3 billion people by 2100. I'm going to read that one more time. The population of sub-Saharan Africa is expected to treble or triple in size to more than 3 billion people by 2100. And the study says Nigeria will become the world's second biggest country with a population of 791 million. Professor Murray says, we will have many more people of African descent in many more countries as we go through this. Global recognition of the challenges around racism are going to be all the more critical if there are large numbers of people of African descent in many countries. So, what I'm saying is, regardless of your stance of Roe v. Wade or whatever, because like I said, I'm not here to debate. I'm not here to debate and be like, oh, this is wrong or whatever. I just want to let us know that as Black women, but this ain't got nothing to do with us. You feel me? The reason why they've overturned it, it has nothing to do with, oh, they're trying to stop us from, no. It don't have that. They want us. If we look at Planned Parenthood and why it was created, honestly, and like I said, this is no shade to any woman at all. No shade to any woman because I'm not here to judge. I'm not in a position to. No shade to any woman at all. But I'm just looking at the facts of the matter. It was created. They set those traps for us because they didn't want us to reproduce, right? But then now their women have fallen into the traps that they set for us. If we're just being 100% honest, they set traps for us and their women are falling into the traps. So this is a last ditch effort to preserve their majority because it's slipping away. Especially in the United States, it's slipping away. It's a last ditch effort to preserve them being in the majority, right? Now, even though a lot of people can say, well, this is still gonna, Black women, it's gonna affect us too. So I don't understand why they would do that. Well, like I said, they don't really care about us. It's not just about Black people in the United States. It's the fact that globally, the replacement rate in many African countries is at like 4. Some of it is even 6 point something. You feel me? And so, like that article said, there's going to be a population boom when it comes to people of African descent. You know, it's going to be a population boom. So if we're just looking at the reality of it, we can't make emotional decisions. We can't say something like, oh, they did this, because they're trying to fight against Black women and they're trying to hurt Black women. No, it don't have nothing to do with them trying to hurt Black women. They're trying to save their own women. Because if they really cared about black women, you feel me? If they really cared about us, we wouldn't be 3 times more likely to die in the hospitals than white women. There's another article that I have linked. It says black women over 3 times more likely to die in pregnancy postpartum than white women. Over 3 times. So they've never cared about us and our babies. Let's get that straight right now. They've never cared about us. This is 100% about trying to preserve themselves because they know what's coming. They know that in the next century, this world is going to be flipped upside down. I mean, black people are already the global majority, but it's going to be on the next level because like all European countries and the United States is starting to fall below that replacement rate. So the point I'm making is this: women, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be outraged or anything like that, but what I'm saying is this: there's a reason behind why these things are happening. And before we start to throw our bets on a horse in a race that doesn't belong to us, before we start to do that, we really have to understand that this isn't this is bigger than just us as women, and that's why we can't be steeped in this feminism rhetoric, because it was never meant to involve us in the first place. And then secondly, it's been a hoax this whole time, even for white women. Even if we're looking at them, they think that they've done something with women's rights and feminism. It was all something that was used to get women into the consumerism so that they could market to women and women could become buyers. It was never a real tangible thing that women had. Women's empowerment is what I'm saying. It was never that. It's just something that they dangled in front of us to make us believe that we had some kind of power, and then they've shown us very quickly that they can immediately take it away if they want, in order to preserve their supremacy, in order to preserve, or at least try to preserve, their replacement rate. But nothing could stop what's coming. Can't stop what's coming. You feel me? People in African countries are not going to stop reproducing. And the ever dwindling replacement rate of European countries and America and some of the Asian countries, that's not going to stop either. You understand me? So somebody said same thing with the LGBTQ community. They use them. It's true. And again, it's no shade to my LGBTQ community, because I know there's a lot of black people that are really pro-black and they may be a part of that community. Look, I'm not even trying to tell you how to live your life. You feel me? I live mine how I live mine. But they will use marginalized groups whenever they see money could be attached to you. Whenever they know they can market and sell to you. It's June right now. It's so-called, it's Pride Month, so to speak. It's a big thing. There's flags and stuff everywhere because that's another marginalized group, just like women, that can be exploited for consumerism purposes. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So regardless of how you feel about it, I'm not saying how you feel is right or wrong, because like I said, I'm not in a position to judge nobody. But what I am saying is this: there's a reason behind it. And we cannot immerse ourselves so deeply into like movements that don't really benefit us, because we as black women, a lot of times we as black women will get totally immersed into feminism and women's empowerment and all that kind of stuff. And first of all, those type of things aren't really real. They aren't really real. They're not really real. Um, it's not really a real thing. It's not really a real tangible thing that we can certainly like hold on to. So we can't get caught up in that. We have to understand that us sticking with each other. I saw a post on Facebook that said the best ally for the black woman is a strong black man. You feel me? Who could shoulder some of the weight, you know? In times like this where our society seems uncertain and just what's seen as normal is crumbling, we have to lean on each other as people. You feel me? We have to lean on each other. The black community, We can't be sitting up trying to fight and feud with each other. We can't be looking at each other as the enemy because the white community, if you will, I don't even know if that's a thing, but white people, so to speak, white men will take things away from their own women, as we just saw this week, in order to preserve what they have going on. And I'm not saying we should model ourselves after white people, but what I'm saying is this. You know how when you fight with your sibling, you might be in mid fight with your brother or your sister, but then somebody come up and try to say something about your brother or your sister. It don't matter if you in mid fight with your brother or your sister. So if somebody else try to come into the situation and be like, "Oh, now I want to beat them up," me and my brother that was just fighting will band together to beat that person up. And then after we handle them, we might go back to our little petty beef. But nobody about to come in between what we got going on, even if we are feuding. So that's the point that I'm making. In these type of times, we can't get too immersed into feminism or any of that because it was all a hoax. It was all used against us to make us consumers, to make us believe that what they told us is empowering. Because what do we have? We were so upset in the 60s and the 70s and even in the 80s and the 90s when advertising just overly sexualized women. We were upset with that, you know. We as women said that we didn't want that. But then it became the cool thing. How is it empowering for women? Like if we're just looking at the music industry right now, how is it women's empowerment if a woman has no choice but to show her body and parade herself around naked in order to sell records? Have you guys noticed the trend? How is that an empowering thing if you have to do it? If you have to do it in order for you to be a successful artist, how is it empowering? This is what I'm talking about. Like we as women, there's so much manipulation that goes on with us. The article said it. We are more receptive to advertising. We are more easily influenced when it comes to things like that. So many times this society has presented something to us that they've told us is beneficial and it's empowering as women, and we've accepted it. And we've called it empowerment when it was really a trick to exploit us in some sort of way, you know? So yes, let's protect ourselves and let's also remember, like that post said, the best ally for a black woman is not another woman or whatever, it's the black man. Like we come together and we're able to fight back from the nonsense that may be presenting itself as some sort of opportunity or something good for us when it's actually something that's coming to exploit us as a whole. So that's all I'm saying. Now I'm gonna read some of these super chats and then I'm gonna go on and get off the live because I've been talking for 33 minutes and I don't be wanting to try to talk that long. G Twilight, thank you so much for the super chat. Um, Kevin C said, Erica, thanks for bringing information and thought provoking information to the masses. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. I appreciate the super chat. Um, let me see. Uh, I thought it was another one that I saw. Lion Greg's Media said everything the system has put in place to destroy us has ended up backfiring on them. Abortion in this case was meant to destroy us, but white women abort at a higher rate than black women. This is actually true. Now, because black women are a smaller percentage of the population, our numbers are comparative to white women, which is that's saying a lot for us to be a smaller percentage, but we have numbers that are similar to white women. We're doing a lot. But regardless, the point I'm making is this. Like I said, I'm not trying to judge nobody or anything. The point I'm making is this. They set traps for us that they're now falling into, and they're trying to undo what they did. That's the basic. If I could sum up the whole life, that's basically what it is. And everything that we see as empowerment as women, especially if it's being funded by the mass media, we should question those things. Anything that is funded by the mass media or presented to us as something good by mainstream media, we should question these things. What is their intention? What is the reason for it? Why is this something that's being promoted? The same thing with the body positivity thing. Now, I'm not saying that women like that people who have like issues with their body should hate themselves. I would never even suggest anything remotely close to that because I know that it's difficult when you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see. Because I mean, I know you guys think I'm just so beautiful, but I've experienced that. I've experienced looking in the mirror and not liking what I see. So I would never suggest that, right? But what I am saying is that it's very lucrative, it's very profitable to market to a certain demographic of disenfranchised and marginalized people. In essence, like people that are obese, you know, it's very lucrative because if people are obese, they're more likely to have health problems. And then that feeds the pharmaceutical industries and the healthcare industry. And we know how much money that industry makes. And not only that, but then it fuels like the food, the fast food industries, all sorts of industries that it fuels. Everything that's promoted to us is good by this mainstream media. There is a financial incentive behind it, is the point that I'm making. I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this to diminish the strides that we have taken as a society, being more body positive, or a society that's more receptive to women and our needs, or a society that's more receptive to the LGBTQ community. No, I'm not saying any of that. I'm not downplaying any of those accomplishments. But what I am saying is this: there's a financial incentive for all of it. So let's just check to see what the reasoning may be before we fully immerse ourselves into these movements, and before we fully immerse ourselves into any of these movements that are basically, it's the perception of power. Before we focus on any of these movements that give us the idea of power but not any real power, we should come together and create power within ourselves, real power within ourselves. And that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Let me know how you feeling about this live. You feel me? Because I feel like I started off and I was all over the place because it was a lot of information I wanted to get to you guys. But let me know if you rocking with it or if you not. But please do so respectfully. If you're not feeling alive, say why, but do it respectfully. Don't be calling me a pick me and all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's not like it hurts my feelings, but I mean, it's just not nice. But yeah, if you do like it though, make sure you hit that like button, share, comment, all that kind of stuff help. All of it helps me. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. All my social medias are there: Cash App, IG, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all of that. My website as well. Thank you guys for tuning into live. But I'm about to go. Um, I will see you guys later on this week. I will go live again on Thursday, is what I'm shooting for. But thank you for tuning in. As always, it's been a pleasure. I love y'all. Talk to you later. Bye.